Hey guys, it's week 21. Here's my little intro video for you. Today we're going to be talking more about the Polar V800 watch, functions that I got to see when I actually took it out running. Can you imagine? And then also a couple little videos about actually getting out there running. It's been a while. I got 2 good runs in this past week. Good runs for me right now are 40-45 minutes, everything in time, right? So, let's begin. It is a beautiful day outside in the mid-30s. It's sunny, it's not windy, and I'm going for my first run outside since December, and I'm really excited to see how I do. I've been doing more cardio at the gym. This is gum, by the way. I realize I always have it in my cheek, and I don't want you to think I've got like a tumor growing in there. But it's my first run outside since December. I've got my new Polar V800 watch that I'm taking for a run. Gotta let the GPS sync up on that. I look a little bit like one of Janet Jackson's backup dancers. Miss Jackson if you're nasty. But I'm really excited to see how far I can go. I'm not gonna worry about heart rate, I'm not gonna worry about anything. I'm just gonna go pretty much as long as I can. I'm shooting for 40 to 45 minutes, which will be the longest run I've done in a while. But my hopes and dreams are that this running outside on solid ground is going to make it a little bit easier than the unsteadiness of the treadmill. So I'll check back in with you. I always like to start with the failures so you have somewhere to go up. But so my heart rate was a mess. It has been so long since I ran outside, and then in the cold at that. So usually where it takes me a couple minutes to get up to, do you hear the neighbors yelling and playing there? So usually where it takes me 5 minutes, 10 minutes to get up to 160, started off at 167. I definitely was not going my zone 2 pace, maybe ever. I was definitely doing some zone 3 in there, or what my zone 3 pace was, but on top of just being a little bit out of shape for running outside, and then being about 5 pounds heavier than the last time I went running, let's call that 5 pounds muscle plus. It was definitely a more arduous run, but I made it. I made it 40 minutes running. I had mild pain set in, just like a twinge of discomfort around 25 minutes, and then 35 minutes, it got kind of moderate. I hit a red light, I stopped, and then something kind of miraculous for me, I took off again, and just with minor adjustments, I reached home here, and I'm back to kind of what I call my mild discomfort. So I'm really encouraged by that, and the fact that I can walk right now and it's not terribly painful. So, more updates this week. Hey guys, just a quick little update that I got to go for another run yesterday. I ran 45 minutes and 5 miles, and while I had a little bit of pain in my right soleus, just to remind you, if you haven't tuned in a little while, it's typically my left ankle that gives me the most pain. So I had a little bit of not strain, but a little bit of firing off going on in that right soleus, but my ankles were fine. So I was psyched about that. So, hopefully running more and more. Welcome back to my kitchen. I think it's been a little while since you've been here, maybe around Christmas time. As I said last week, I want to talk more about the Polar V800. I finally got to go running with it, as you saw, twice this past week, and I have to say it was really nice not having to constantly kind of look at this giant iPhone on my arm. I have the iPhone 6 Plus, which is great for a lot of things, reading, battery life, great camera, great for making web videos. Not great to run on your arm. It's a large piece of equipment, and it really made a difference having just this instead of this massive phablet, as they've been called. So, in addition to using the Polar V800 with the weightlifting profile, I got to use it with the actual road running profile. As I said before, there's tons of different sports profiles online through the Polar Sync app and their website that you can use to load onto your watch and select them. There's road running. Right now on mine I have road running, trail running, cross trainer, free multi-sport. I don't know what that is, but I have it. Cycling, pool swimming, indoor cycling, treadmill running, strength training. So naturally I use the road running, especially since all the paths that I go on are kind of Google Map documented, as well as paved. I thought road running is probably more appropriate than trail running for me. So all I had to do was click the red button once, and then you kind of select the profile you want. As soon as you pull up the profile, even without pressing anything else, you can see that it's starting to, starting to search for GPS function. I'm never able to pair it or to have the GPS located while I'm indoors. I think you just have to be outdoors. And even at that, I will say that standing here kind of waiting for it on my wrist. Sometimes it took a while, and just by holding my wrist out a little bit away from me, it paired up within a few seconds. So if you're having any troubles with your GPS watches syncing up, just try holding them still away from you for a little bit. As soon as I did that, it was ready to go. I pressed start. It detected my heart rate monitor, which is on a strap that I wear right about here, if you can see me. And then once we're going, it's kind of a few cool functions that it has. It lists the current time, it lists the overall time, it lists the lap time. Two really neat things that I found with this watch is if you tap on the screen with a moderate amount of force, it auto records a lap for you. Now for me, out there running on the road or on this paved trail, that's not as useful, but I think it's a really great kind of way to see your overall distance, which you can program it to do, as well as a quick recording of a lap without having to futz around with the buttons, which I wanted to make another point to say. Some people have noted that, this is a sizable watch, but again, most GPS, most running watches that you're going to have are not going to be these tiny little Timex-esque pieces. One thing that I really liked was that even with gloves on, this was very easy to manually manipulate, digitally manipulate. They really take advantage of the real estate that it comes with having a bigger watch, and what that means is they spread out the buttons nice and far. I had no issues using this with gloved or ungloved hands. Another thing that I wanted to talk about is that Polar, I say that funny, right? Polar, that's how normal people say it. Polar actually made it possible to sync their watch with Strava. And what that means is that I don't lose all that great information and great data that I accrued from using Strava over the past few months. When I plug this watch into my computer, it syncs all the info up with the Polar Flow app, and then that app automatically syncs to my Strava account because I set it up. I'm really happy about that. It would have really been a little bit of a bummer to have, months 1 through 5 or whatever it is on Strava, and then that just ends, and then months, 6 through the rest on the Polar app. So I'm really happy about that. So another tactile function that Polar includes is this tap that you can do to the heart rate monitor. And what it actually does is while this is running, if you take your watch and you kind of tap the display to wherever your heart rate monitor is, which for me, is right about here, it shows you the normal time, which might seem inconsequential, but when I'm running, there's really 3 things that I want to know. I want to know my heart rate, which is displayed on the normal screen. I want to see my total distance, which is displayed once I tap it once. And then the other thing that I really want to see is what time of day it is. For me, that's extra important as a lot of times I'm going running in the late afternoon, early evening, and I want to know how much daylight I have left. If I've got 45 minutes of daylight left, maybe I'll run an extra mile or 2, or an extra 20 or 30 minutes. If it's almost dark and it's pretty cold out already, maybe I'm going to cut it short just a little bit so I'm not running in that sub 30 degree weather. As soon as I posted that last video about not having personally had any issues connecting my watch to my computer, I started having to really kind of jimmy around with that port. Like we mentioned and I showed you last time, it's this little flap that comes up and then kind of almost like a hairpin clip that goes over these sensors on the back. And that's what synced your computer up. I've definitely had to spend a little bit of time with that in the last week or 2. Considering everything that this watch does and how well it's been holding up, the battery life's been really great for me. I took it on 2 45-minute runs using the GPS and heart rate functions and everything, and didn't charge it for 2 weeks, and it was only about down to maybe 90%. I mean, Polar says that it really lasts about a month on standby, kind of normal watch mode. I feel like it's going to last a lot longer than that. So if you have to jimmy around with the connection for 5 or 10 seconds, I'm not syncing it up every day. I sync it up every week or 2. If you're really syncing it up every day and you just don't, maybe you have a little bit of arthritis or reduced motility in your hands, if that's really an issue for you, then yeah, maybe something to consider. For me, it's a slight inconvenience, but when I weigh it against all the positives of this watch, it's not nearly enough for me to lodge it in the actual complaint division. As I run more with this watch, I'm going to be letting you know more about it, but these are my big impressions. These are the big things that I think you need to know regarding the Polar V800. I like this kind of checking in on products as we go system that we've been developing here together, and I think it's more beneficial than the out of the box, how does it look, how does it feel, how does it run, first time review. I think those are important, obviously, but I also think it's good to know how does it function a month in, 3 months in, a year in. When you're spending the amount of money that you're spending on something like this, like I said, it MSRP is for about $500, but you can commonly find it for $320 to $380 online. But when you are spending that kind of amount of money, you want to know how it's going to hold up and how it's going to change with you as you take it out more and more. One of the benefits that I mentioned last time was this little loop. Exceedingly difficult for me to thread the other end of the watch strap through at the beginning. Now it's fine. Now it's kind of loosened up a little bit, no problems. I don't anticipate it breaking. It seems pretty sturdy. The quality rubber is really high. But that's something that I wouldn't have known had I just given you my first impressions. So, like I said, as I find more functions of this, I'll be doing little updates with this watch along the way. It is my only running watch. I'm really happy that if I can only have one, it's just one for right now. But yeah, that's my new watch.